Hi, Stockholm University students. My name is Sarah Lindahl, and I am the head teacher of Planet Kids Nursery School. And I just wanted to say what a shame it is that I don't get to meet you during these Corona times. I really, really enjoy meeting students, and especially because you all have such amazing questions about the way Swedish preschool works. So, a little bit about myself. I have a degree in psychology from the United States, and it focused in early childhood and adolescent development. Then, when I came to Sweden, I have a degree in early childhood education, and I also have completed the head teacher's education, rektorsutbildningen, if you've heard about that. I also have done training to teach teaching students such as yourself. So that's a little bit about me. I've been at this school for about 13 years and have witnessed a lot of the changes in the preschool system over the past decade in Sweden, from the time where it was more child caregiving to now being a proper school form with qualified licensed teachers, which is a big change that happened in 2015. A little bit about our school. It's a parent cooperative, which means that a group of parents sit on the board of Planet Kids and make decisions regarding the school kind of as a business, and then I run sort of the teaching side of things. If you're following the news, as I'm sure everybody is, and you hear that it's up to the huvudmannen to close the school during these corona times, that at my particular school means that it would be up to that group of parents if we were unable to have enough teachers or needed to close the school for some reason. So that's a little bit about the way it works. Obviously, in Sweden it's very important that all children have an equal opportunity. There's a lot of values about equality, and the ability to go to preschool is a really important part of that. One thing that I think is important for you to know, though, is that the preschools vary vastly throughout the different regions in Sweden and municipalities. Um, if you look at whether or not preschools supply diapers or not, how much time you're allowed to have your child at preschool, if you're on maternity or paternity leave, can be really different. The national minimum is 15 hours per week for children who have parents at home, for example. And here in Stockholm, we offer at the moment 30 hours per week for those who have children at home. So you can see that there are differences even throughout the country. If you're comparing to a preschool in other countries, as many of the previous students I've talked to do, I think it's really important to note that we don't accept any children who are younger than 1. So the day that they turn 1 here in Sweden, they have the right to go to preschool. And there's a little bit of exception with that if the child has a need where they would need to be in an environment to stimulate their physiological or psychological well-being. Then there are a few cases where people could start earlier, but I think it's important to know that the majority of the children here are here from the day after they turn 1 until the year they turn 6. So, for instance, if I'm comparing that to what's going on in the United States, when some people use the word preschool, it can mean anything from 6 weeks old until they go to primary school. So in Sweden, it's the day after they turn 1 until they turn 6. In Stockholm, we have the open hours, everything from 7:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night. Uh, and that is what the municipality of Stockholm insists that everybody should have. And then my particular preschool is open from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 at night, because that's the needs of my parents. But should any parent have a need within the 7:30 to 7:30 time, we would need to adjust our open hours. I also think that it's important to keep in mind that Swedish preschool is incredibly subsidized by the government, and that looks different in the municipalities as well. So speaking for Stockholm, it's roughly the parents pay 1 part to the government paying 10 parts. So if the parents roughly pay 1,000 kronor, the municipality of Stockholm is paying 10,000 kronor per month. Um, and I wanted to also say that within each school, there are both fully qualified licensed preschool teachers, which is what I am. I have also worked in a school as a teaching assistant before I had my qualifications. There are huge differences in pay between teachers and teaching assistants, and it can be what I saw. The last statistics from our union were roughly 10,000 kronor per month different in how much a qualified teacher makes and how much a teaching assistant makes. So in Sweden, as you all know, I'm sure I'm repeating a lot that you already know, that schools are required to follow a lot of different guidelines, and one of our main ones obviously is the school law. And for specific regulations about the preschool, you'll find that all in Chapter 8. The school law is not allowed to be translated into English, or it's not officially translated into English. But if you had any questions about that, you guys can email me, and I'll do my best to help find someone who can help you out. We also follow, of course, the curriculum for the preschool, and that is available in English. There are updates sort of all the time, so it's important to keep really current on that. I'm sure your teachers have talked a lot about the importance of play, which is coming more and more in the newer editions of the curriculum for the preschool. So a lot of our teachers in continuing education just goes to staying current on what the most current guidelines are. Also, of course, we follow the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which I'm sure, as you know, is just recently become law in Sweden, and that also affects our policy making, obviously. So there are so many different guidelines. There are even more laws, and then as I'm the employer of my staff, there's also guidelines for the kind of work environment that I can have for my teachers here. I always, a lot of also the teaching in the preschool has to do with the influence of the child, and we take that really seriously at my school, and I'm sure they do everywhere. I get questions about how can you make sure that a 1-year-old or 2-year-old have an influence over their preschool environment, and we work among other things, but with surveys we use for our children, with smiley faces. We do child interviews. We obviously are observing them a lot during free play, which is so important to the work that we do here. I always have gotten a question about if I have contacted the authorities regarding being worried about a child. And to be honest, I don't really feel comfortable answering that in this environment, but I did want to say that if that's a problem for you or anybody, that preschool teaching just isn't for you, because that is something that everybody takes really seriously. It's part of our job, it's part of our duties, and it's an important part of teaching. So I wanted to let you know we have a parent handbook, and in the parent handbook we also just are really open with the parents straight off the beginning, and tell them when we notify authorities just that that it's our legal obligation that if we feel that a child is in danger, that we would notify the authorities. And this is all information that parents get on their first day here. So it's sort of, if we were ever in that situation, it shouldn't really come as a surprise that that's part of our obligation, is to make sure that the children are safe. Some other things in the parent handbook are talking about the fees, which I talked briefly about, but just to reiterate, they're capped at 3% of the combined income of the parents. So if you're making below the amount that where you would pay the maximum, the roughly 1,000 kroner, you could, I mean, if you have a lower salary, you pay a lower fee. We have it on paper how to register a complaint and different things that have to do with this GDPR law, etc. So that's a little bit about my specific tiny preschool located just outside of Östermalm. And just for your teacher to know, I'm just trying to answer questions that I often get, but I'm really sad I couldn't answer your specific questions. And if there's anything that you think of or you're wondering where I got this information from, you can email me at pknursery@gmail.com. And PK Nursery is one word. I'm going to do another short video here where I'm going to take you a tour of the school and the favorite place the children like to play.